Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. To Die For. Housed in a Gothic-style building off the north end of the town square, the library stood as witness to history. Floods, droughts, births, deaths, a civil war, and even 2 world wars left no lasting effects on this stoic stone and mortar structure. It seems as though even time meant nothing to the Matson County Library. Occasionally, passers-by pondered at the enormity of the building, and the exceptionally thoughtful considered the decades that had flowed by as the library shouldered its community's burdens. However, as technological advancements stole more and more interest away from the stodgy stacks of musty-smelling books, fewer people gave the library even a momentary glance. For those who climbed the marble steps and tugged on the creaking oak doors, the hush of the library carried an overbearing weight. The air was heavy and stifled even the most talkative visitors. If a building's atmosphere could be embodied by a person, then that was the case of librarian Ignatius Fletcher. A pinch-faced man of no good humor, he ran a tight operation at the library. It's possible, some speculated, that he was the one cause why library membership had dwindled in recent years. Grown adults, let alone small children, feared the ill-tempered man. The town joke was that even Dewey would have found another line of work had he encountered the foul old man who served as the librarian. Newcomers like Edwin Forsyth, who arrived in town on Tuesday, were the most frequent visitors to the Matson County Library. Drawn to the history and romance of the old building, most considered it a fine way to acquaint themselves with their new community. Few were return customers once they had looked over the selection Ignatius offered them. "Excuse me, sir?" Edwin's voice disrupted the stillness as he sought to garner Ignatius Fletcher's attention. The old man turned around to face his patron. "Yes?" "I'm new around here." The librarian looked him up and down. "I see that." Brushing off the disdainful tone of the thin old man standing behind the counter, Edwin plowed ahead. "Well, you see, I was hoping to find a book to occupy my time. Something different. Looking at the stacks, I'm sorry to say that I've already read much of what you have available." "Quite the reader, are you?" Edwin puffed out his chest and smiled. "Why, yes I am. I've been a voracious reader since the age of 4. "How nice." Ignatius continued flipping through the papers in front of him, quickly oblivious to his new patron. Edwin cleared his throat. "I was hoping you had a suggestion?" The old man paused, staring at the papers for a moment before looking up to peer at him. "A suggestion? Well, I might have something in the special collection located in the back room. Follow me." Past the stacks, through a locked door, and down a narrow corridor, Ignatius Fletcher came to a stop and opened a door. Reaching into the darkness, he turned on a light switch, revealing a pleasant room. Not at all like the austere main library, this room was downright inviting. Resembling a parlor more than a library, a sofa, complete with a plush throw and abundant fluffy pillows, took center stage in the room. A tall Tiffany-style lamp stood next to the sofa, and an end table offered a bowl of sweets. Bookshelves lined the wall. The soft light from the lamp gave the windowless room a welcoming ambiance. "My, I wasn't expecting this." "It's not a room I bring just anyone to. However, your discriminating tastes in literature seem ready-made for this collection. I suggest you start with this book." He pulled the first title off the bookshelf to the right. "It should capture your attention. If not, There are many stories to choose from. He handed Edwin the book. The leather cover was embossed with a paisley design. Even just looking at it, it's quite impressive. It feels good to the touch. Edwin marveled at the craftsmanship that went into the book. The volumes in the special collection cannot be checked out and must remain in this room. You are free to remain here as long as you wish. There are no set hours for the library. Patrons may come and go as they please. With that, the librarian turned and left the room, closing the door behind him. Edwin situated himself on the sofa. It had just the right balance of support and luxurious softness to make it the perfect place to read. He nestled under the fuzzy blanket and opened the book. Soon he was whisked away on an adventure, following the life and escapades of a former trapper turned pioneer. The librarian was right. This book is fascinating with just the right mix of history and compelling personal story. I'd never heard of this author before. He flipped to the front and stared at the name. Pierre Cordier. I'll have to look for more of his books in the future. Time passed, and Edwin remained engrossed in the book. He laughed, he wept, he cheered for the protagonist and hated the villain. The writing was superb, and the emotions were raw and authentic. Finally, he finished the last page. That held my attention from beginning to end. I wasn't ready for it to be over. He stared at the spine of the leather cover. Volume 1, it says. Glancing at the bookshelf, he spotted Volume 2. He rose, stretched, and placed Volume 1 back on the shelf, then picked up Volume 2. Well, let's see what you're all about. Says here you're written by a Henry Cantwell. Edwin settled himself back onto the sofa and began reading once again. This story isn't anything like the last one, but it has me just as entranced. Page after page he turned, lost in the grand tale. He paused for a moment between chapters to look around the room. Row after row of volumes sat on the shelves. Edwin was nearly giddy. If each volume is as intriguing as the first two are, this is going to be a real treat. He couldn't remember the last time he had been so excited about a collection of books. Before he knew it, he finished Volume 2. He nearly sprinted to grab Volume 3. One after another, Edwin devoured the stories on the shelves around him. What I would give to have a set of these at home. I could read them over and over. In fact, I'll ask the librarian where I can order them from. He seems a little severe, but he can't be all bad. After all, he knows a good book when he sees one. He turned page after page and found each new story even more compelling. He felt a little weak and tired after a while, but even though his eyes grew bleary, he continued reading. Finally, he came to the end of the final book on the shelves. That's odd. I don't seem to have the strength to get off the couch. I have been reading for quite a while. I'm sure the librarian wouldn't mind if I stretched out and took a little nap. Edwin burrowed into the couch and fell into the soundest rest he'd ever taken, or ever would. He was right about Ignatius Fletcher. He didn't mind his guest falling into eternal slumber. It's taken him long enough, muttered the surly old man. I was afraid the snow would fly before he was through. I thought he'd never stop reading. Although, that was exactly the plan Ignatius Fletcher had in mind for the select few he took deep into the belly of the library. He wanted them to read and read and read. Why, these books are to die for. He let out a hearty chuckle. They're so interesting that once begun, no one stops to eat or drink or rest. The librarian stripped Edwin's body of his clothes and dragged him to the processing room, where his skin would be turned to leather. Once that chore was complete, it would be time to bind the newest edition for the special collection. Volume 646, a story by Edwin Forsythe. Thank you for joining me for Into the Night, an anthology series written by Caroline Giammanco, narration and sound design by Nari, theme music by Nico Rodriguez, all original music and editing in part provided by Flyboy Entertainment. You can find our links in the show notes. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you enjoy what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review to help other excursionists to join us. You can find us on your favorite podcast directory. See you next time. And remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths take you into the night. Into the Night is a Creative Typo Entertainment production.